In most of the couples, it has been shown that the man is older than the woman, but this time is different. There is a story between a young man and the woman who loves him. That's what happened to Sakita Kuki, a 20-year-old manga assistant, who fell in love with the woman he was working for. He was working as a manga assistant for Akanabe Kira, a mangaka who had stolen his heart and had become his partner. It all started when Sakita decided to join Akanabe and become her assistant. He was a kind-hearted and blushing person, but apart from that, he's very talented as a background artist. He was a very persistent person as he immersed himself in the art of drawing manga. One day he had an idea. He wanted his manga to start at the moment when the heroine takes off her panties. However, he couldn't stop himself because he was fantasizing about Akanabe-san taking off her panties at that very moment, and that made him nervous. Luckily, he was able to control himself and get out of the distraction. He started to concentrate on the background that he was into. After finishing his panels, he would immediately send them to Akanabe and ask for her suggestions. She was so impressed and captivated by Sakita's drawings that she couldn't help but praise him a lot. However, this admiration turned into a real challenge for Sakita, who referred to it as his destructive power. When it comes to Sakita's drawings, Akanabe-san rarely throws normal or common praise. Instead, she gives extravagant compliments. As a result, every compliment from Akanabe leaves him feeling thoroughly embarrassed and crushed. He utterly understands that Akanabe is 4 years older than him, but it is not a big matter for him to have a date with this gorgeous woman from Sakita's perspective. Akanabe-san was the author of Crimson Witch and already admired her manga since long ago. Before going on a date with Akanabe-san, he approached her and expressed his desire to be her assistant. He didn't mind that Akanabe is strict since his determination to work with her as her manga assistant was unwavering. This is where all of this hassle has begun. Akanabe-san is overproud over Sakita's drawing. Whenever this moment occurs, Sakita blushes and makes him turn utterly red. This made him feel pleasure and made his heart beat faster. Most of the time he struggles whenever this moment comes up and denies his feelings. Not often he tried to aware himself that his feelings were not what they called love. He ensures that his feelings are just between the mangaka and her liege. As he interprets that this destroyed his concentration, he walks out of the room and asks permission to go to the toilet. Inside the toilet, he manages feeling and emotion toughly. He inhales deeply and tries hard to steady up himself, and he stays calm down. Once everything is good, he is ready to go out and get back to the room where he tackles his projects. As he entered the room, he saw Akanabe-san standing up there brewing a cup of coffee. Akanabe-san diverted his attention and stared at him deeply with a cold and chill expression as usual. Unpredictably, out of nowhere, she spread out words that made Sakita flustered. She asked whether Sakita had feelings for her or not. Of course, this made Sakita freeze up for a moment, as he still denied his feelings to Akanabe-san. Therefore, he explained that he did have huge respect for her and admired her manga so much. Without hesitation, she immediately asked Sakita out on a date. This sudden confession really made him speechless and checkmate since he was overwhelmed over embarrassed feeling, just like a bunch of flowers rushing over him. But after long reckoning and consideration, he recognized his true feelings for Akanabe and made him also confess back to Akanabe. A broad smile appears on Akanabe's face as he feels joyful and delighted in the moment. Eventually, this is just the beginning of the love story of a mangaka assistant with his boss. Akanabe Sensei follows a daily regimen. She wakes up at 7, starts her day by brewing a cup of coffee, and revitalizes her morning with a cigarette, using her exhaust fan. After indulging in her morning routine, she grabs some food and gets ready to work by 9 a.m. Meanwhile, Sakita waits on the roadside, scrolling through his cell phone as he anticipates his boss, Akanabe Sensei. It's still 40 minutes before their scheduled appointment to go to work together, but his excitement drives him to arrive early despite the cold weather. Akanabe has been preparing for about 4 hours when she spots Sakita through the window. She decides to walk downstairs to meet him in person. With her caring personality, she shows her attention toward him. After a short conversation, they head into Akanabe Sensei's house together. In the cozy morning atmosphere, the couple immerses themselves in their manga project. Suddenly, Akanabe Sensei confesses to Sakita that she woke up early, around 4 a.m., because she knew he would come over. This confession flusters Sakita, and his heartbeat quickens as he feels his face heat up. He begins to think they may share mutual feelings. Akanabe Sensei traces her finger along Sakita's cheek and holds it gently, making him even more embarrassed under her gaze. He can hear his heartbeat as he stares back at her. Akanabe-sensei speaks softly, telling him that he is welcome to come over even earlier than usual so they can spend more time together. Noticing Sakita's embarrassment, Akanabe-sensei asks why he feels that way. He shyly covers his mouth and admits that her actions and words make him feel embarrassed. Akanabe-sensei is momentarily speechless as she feels content knowing how much Sakita cares for her, even if her expression doesn't fully convey it. In that moment, she leans closer and expresses a desire to kiss him. He feels both aware and shocked. He speaks but stammering as he has difficulties to speak up when Akanabe leans her face closer to him. He wants to say that he wants a kiss too, but he can't handle his embarrassment well. While he was trying to finish his sentence, she turned away and told him to keep it professional, saying it was important to keep their personal and work lives separate. She realized that if they blur the lines between business and private life, it'll never end. Akanabe gives Sakita a heads up to stop him from drawing erotic scenes. This request leaves him standing there, feeling pretty embarrassed. However, he turns him down firmly while standing up. He knows he's a bit shy, but this kind of thing isn't going to help him look any less professional. Akanabe-sensei stays at her desk, looking at him calmly. She gets what he's saying about, but she's certain that, as they're dating, there's a chance he might fantasize about her as a reference for such an improper scene in the manga. Sakita got it. He realized what his teacher was getting at. This reasoning makes sense to Sakita, who feels even more embarrassed at the thought. His face is a dead giveaway since currently he just looks as red as a tomato. It's pretty clear that he's just had a flash of insight into an erotic scene involving Akanabe-san. So Akanabe-sensei quickly understands the situation and gives him some advice. She keeps calm with her relaxed demeanor and asks him not to force himself to draw erotic scenes, remembering his embarrassment. By then, she gives him the reassurance that if he really wants that, he can gain real experience in the future with her. Akanabe's words were so surprising that Sakita was momentarily stunned and overwhelmed by a rush of embarrassment. As they work together to finish their project, the sound of pencils scratching against paper creates a bond between Akanabe and Sakita. Currently, Sakita is in rush state as he tried his best to work on his part for a character called Iron. This character represents his sensei a lot as she is performed as fast worker, brave, strong, and as though as a castle. These all where the name is coming from. After a moment, Sakita has struggled for his part. He finally finished it in proper time as Akanabe's expectation. Akanabe realized if this is already over time of their day off, but the project is not finished yet whereas it needs to be submitted tomorrow. Akanabe asks her assistant to get back home and feels sorry since she asked him for overtime today. Sakita firmly refuses to let his girlfriend work alone, feeling a sense of guilt for the delay caused by him. With his resilient attitude, he is determined to help Akanabe complete their project. Akanabe explains that the true reason for the delay is her decision to modify half of the story, which has resulted in a rushed effort to finish everything. Sakita immediately expresses his belief that the current version of the story is an improvement and assures her that readers will appreciate it. Nevertheless, he remains steadfast in his desire to assist his girlfriend. He promises to give his best effort in drawing each panel to help finish the work. Despite his unassuming appearance, he is more resilient than he seems. His determination remains unshaken, and he always radiates positivity, which endears him even more to Akanabe. As the clock strikes midnight, they finally overcome their difficulties and complete the project. Akanabe stretches her body, feeling heavy and exhausted. She suggests Sakita to take a taxi home and take care of himself. As she walks into her bedroom and lies down, she quickly nods off. Sakita, who is watching her from afar, comes closer and gently places his hand over hers, sharing his warmth with her after the long day. He understands how tired she is. Unfortunately, his presence wakes her up. As she blinks her eyes open, she feels more energized and content. Eager for a cuddle, she asks her shy boyfriend to join her, but he hesitates as he is not ready yet for such intimacy. Akanabe feels a bit disappointed but can understand the current situation. She realizes there's no need to rush their relationship. Instead, she decides to continue her project as she said that love from Sakita gave her 1,000,000 times more strength than sleeping could. The next day, it's time to submit their scripts or manga projects to the editor. Akanabe-sensei walks inside the building and heads to the publishing company to meet Kakami Haruka, her professional manga editor. Kakami-san is actually 7 years older than her. Despite Kakami being older, she has a youthful appearance and is shorter than Akanabe. Upon meeting, Kakama suddenly throws her a question of why Akanabi submitted the work later than usual since it's uncommon for her to do so. Additionally, Kakami observes significant changes in the story compared to their previous discussions. When Kakami expresses her concerns, Akanabi quickly responds that she has a boyfriend. This revelation surprises Kakami, as she had never seen her as someone who is interested in relationships. Akanabi said whenever she saw him, she can't help but add more details and description of the characters' minds. But she isn't sure that the current manga is way more interesting than the previous version, as what Sakita said last night. It's a bit frustrating for Kakami since she assumes that Akanabi should tell her and consult her for any improvisation in the story. While conflicted, Kakami also feels happy for Akanabi as she is recognizing how much she has changed for the better. At the moment, Akanabi asked her how to express love to the partner without made him feel embarrassed. However, Kakami can't answer the question as she does not have any experience in love and relationship. Despite they tend to focus back on their work so it can be released soon. Days turn into weeks as they finish the work on time. Still stay in their workspace, Akanabi and Sakita take a moment to breathe before preparing for their next project. During their leisure time, Akanabi invites Sakita to visit her house the following weekend. Sakita is puzzled as their work has been completed, but he does not know why he should visit her so soon. He hasn't fully realized they were now in a relationship. Akanabi clarifies her invitation, stating that she wants Sakita to visit her as a boyfriend, not just as a manga assistant. Sakita is astonished at the idea of acting as a boyfriend. He struggles with the thought on what clothes he should wear tomorrow or even how to address Akanabi in person. He usually called her Sensei, but he realized it doesn't suit to call her this way beyond of the work. This new dynamic feels awkward for him since it's also his first experience in this role. In the middle of the night, Sakita reached out to Akanabi by call. He is expressing his concern about what to call his girlfriend. Nonetheless, Akanabi expressed that nickname is not a big deal. She wasn't much worried about the sweet nickname itself. She would feel comfortable for any name which coming from her boyfriend. This confession left Sakita quite embarrassed, as evidenced by the redness in his face. Meanwhile, Akanabi was strolling around a convenience store late at night, holding her cell phone close to her ear as she continued her conversation with Sakita. She bluntly told him that she was about to buy condoms for their plans in the following day. She even mentioned her confusion in which condoms she needs to buy. Her words surprised Sakita at the moment, who felt unprepared for such matters since he supposes that they had only just started dating. He scolded Akanabi at the moment as he grumbled at the idea, thinking that it was too soon for such things. In response, he asked Akanabi not to buy them, concerned about other boys noticing her while purchasing protection. After for a brief reckon, he decided that he would buy them himself, even though he was unsure when they would actually use them. He tells Akanabi that tomorrow he just wants them to focus in quality time. By then, Akanabi can understand the situation. She supposes that Sakita just wants her for himself, thus she said that Sakita shouldn't be much worry as she is only belonging to Sakita. These words left Sakita in speechless and rushed by a bunch of embarrassment. Finally, the much-anticipated day had arrived, bringing with it a perfect weekend filled with fresh air as Sakita walked to his girlfriend's house. However, upon arriving, he was greeted by a woman who opened the door with a grim expression. She is Akanabi-san with her gloomy vibes. Sakita immediately feels terrible, assumes if his arrival had ruined Akanabi's mood. But he was mistaken as the reason for her sour demeanor was that her editor had requested her to finish the magazine cover soon. Since she still had more work to complete, she asked Sakita to stay inside but in another room. She worried that if they were in the same space, her desire to talk with him would distract her from finishing her task. At the moment Akanabi left him, Sakita took a set and abruptly felt frustrated, having missed the chance to call her a proper nickname. He had been too focused on Akanabi's earlier expression, which made it seem like she wanted to devour the world. Feeling restless, he got up and wandered around the kitchen, trying to think of ways to help his girlfriend feel better after her long day of work. After some contemplation, he came up with a fantastic idea. Since he was already in the kitchen, he decided to prepare lunch for her. It was almost 2 p.m. by the time Akanabi realized how engrossed she had become in her work, barely finishing her deadline. Once she completed her task, she quickly sent the cover to her editor. At the moment, she is also feeling exhausted and guilty for ignoring Sakita for so long. Slowly, she made her way to the kitchen, drawn in by the delicious smell of food. She's surprised as she found her boyfriend standing in front of the table arranging lunch for her. This thoughtful gesture touched her deeply, far beyond what she had expected from him. She walked up to him and hugged him from his back. This sudden embrace overwhelmed Sakita as he felt the warmth of her hug and her good smell, while a rush of pleasure attacked him and made his heart race as fast. Since Akanabi looked at the table, she noticed that Sakita had made her a hamburger steak. The sight was so heartwarming that she couldn't help but shower him with lavish praise, leaving him momentarily speechless. After finishing their meal, Akanabi couldn't have been happier with the food. She thoroughly enjoyed it. While they washed the dishes, she asked Sakita to call her by her last name. This request stemmed from a memory of entering the kitchen and hearing him murmur her last name, which made her want to make the request be manifested. This sudden moment left Sakita flustered. Once their meal finished, they found themselves unsure of what they need to do next, as this was their first at-home date, and neither had a proper plan for such an occasion. For a long consideration, Akanabi suggested to watch a movie together. Without any hesitation, Sakita agreed and let her choose the movie. In meantime, Sakita chose the movie which had similarities to her manga, either in character traits or even plot. Sakita was astonished to discover that the movie closely resembled his sensei's manga. Akanabi, who realized it, confessed him that she chose the movie as she comprehend how much he loves her manga, and this movie has story which similar and close enough with her manga. This definitely made him get red and embarrassed even more. Instead of getting overwhelmed by his embarrassment, Sakita tends to respond her and confess that he loves it well with sincere smile. Akanabi was carried away by this occasion, and suddenly, she felt encouraged to make a move. She leaned down, slowly pushing Sakita back onto the couch and staring deeply into his eyes, as if she were about to kiss him passionately. Nevertheless, the characters on the screen broke the atmosphere. Both of them immediately snapped back to reality, realizing it was still too early for such intimate gestures. Overwhelmed and stunned, Sakita found it hard to concentrate on the movie afterward, and eventually asking for the title so he could watch it later at home. As time passed, the couple grew more comfortable with each other, but soon it was time for their first outdoor date. Apparently, Sakita is already well prepared for this. While walking along the street to their designated meeting place, Sakita unexpectedly encountered two boys who were flirting inappropriately with a girl. To his surprise, he recognized the girl as his sensei. Akanabi boldly stood her ground, mocking the boys who were bothering her. When she spotted Sakita arriving, she immediately hugged him, signaling to the boys that she had a boyfriend. Although the boys walked away, they insulted Sakita that he's just an average guy as they walked past him. They also mocked him as he and Akanabi don't match each other. This comment made him doubt himself and overthink the situation a whole way. Akanabi, who recognized his mood, immediately asked if he's fine. With his low tone, he confessed to Akanabi that he took those guys' words personally, but quickly reassured her that it wouldn't deter him, as he was determined to stay cheerful around her, no matter what, and certainly sure that he is the only one who Akanabi loved the most. As he tried hard to stay calm with good mood, he slaps both his cheeks to make him saying that Akanabi won't feel happy if he is depressed. After she heard his concern, to make it up and boost his mood, Akanabi invited him to go somewhere special to lift their spirits just before they decided to eat. She intended to buy matching outfits for both of them. As they picked out clothes, Akanabi accidentally chose a skirt, which reminded her of a time when friends told her that skirts didn't suit her. She felt uncomfortable recalling that moment, but Sakita spoke up with kind words, loudly expressing how fantastic and gorgeous Akanabi looked in the skirt. The enthusiasm on his face as he called her cute made her shocked, but in the same time become more confident. This compliment brought her joy while causing her to giggle softly as she is showcasing her happiness. After spending some time choosing outfits together, they continued their walk as they feel excited to find food and enjoy their time on this date. Since Sakita has some leisure time, he decides to visit his girlfriend's home. However, when he arrives, he finds that Akanabi has a guest, her best friend from art college, Yao Sakura. As Yao stands there with a sharp stare directed at Sakita, she introduces herself. Yao has a charming character. She is brave, decisive, and bold, but also gentle and caring toward those closest to her. Upon hearing the introduction, Akanabi feels misunderstood when Yao refers to her simply as Akanabi's friend. Akanabi firmly denies this, holding her chin thoughtfully, and insists that their relationship is more than just friendship, given the significant time they spent together during college. This confession brings joy to Sakura, as it reassures her that her bond with Akanabi is meaningful. Until now, Akanabi had never expressed her feelings this way. However, Akanabi quickly shifts the focus back to Sakita, who is still trying to process the situation. Sakura is having a difficult time accepting that someone could be closer to Akanabe than she is. Being a caring best friend, she wants to ensure if Akanabe will be safe and well treated. With a piercing stare, she asks Sakita if he has serious intentions regarding his relationship with Akanabe. She recalls how in the past, Akanabe had been surrounded by foolish men who only aimed for her money. There are not few men who also only appreciate Akanabe for her beauty and physique. Thus, by these reasons, she worries that Sakita might be that kind of guy. Gathering his courage, Sakita gulps and expresses uncertainty, even though he knows he hasn't done anything wrong. In the midst of this confusion, Akanabe chimes in, reminding everyone of the positive moments they had during their dates. For instance, she recalls an outing where Sakita insisted to refuse when Akanabe was about to pay his clothes, as eventually he paid his own clothes. This leads Sakura to conclude that Sakita doesn't seem to be the type of guy seeking financial gain from his girlfriend. Still reflecting on their dating experiences, Sakura suddenly asks Sakita if they have ever held hands. He admits that they did during their first at-home date. Hearing this, Sakura can't accept the idea and chastises Akanabe for not being aware of herself, allowing Sakita to hold her hand. However, Akanabe doesn't see this as a big deal. In fact, she adds that she is also interested in Sakita physically. She also had noticed that he sometimes stares at her chest, which made her confidently assume that Sakita is also as interested to her body. Sakura feels embarrassed and struggles to accept what she's just heard. Despite recognizing that Sakita is not a bad guy evidenced by the affection on Akanabe's face when she talks about him, she feels disappointed and failed. She realizes now Akanabe already has a boyfriend, meaning she will spend more time with him, especially during Christmas Eve. Feels upset, Sakura throws her jacket down and dashes out of the house. Sakita is left speechless by the weird act of Sakura, unable to grasp her outburst. However, Sakura's intense demeanor reminds him of the character Cherry from Crimson Witch, and he feels compelled to take an autograph of her since he's a fan of the series. As Sakura left the house, Akanabe and Sakita were moving the sofa back to its original position since Sakura had moved it earlier. At that moment, Akanabe mentioned that Sakura is the author of First Love in Tokyo. Sakita was shocked upon hearing this. The shoujo manga is one of his favorites due to its delicate storytelling that captivated him. He could hardly believe that Sakura is the author he admires, but in the same time she is also Akanabe's best friend. Additionally, she serves as a model for one of the characters in Crimson Witch. What a remarkable combination. He really wanted to get her autograph. However, he felt unsure because the last time she left the house, she exhibited signs of dislike toward him. Akanabe tried to reassure her boyfriend, confident that Sakura would return soon to retrieve her jacket. Indeed, a few minutes later, Sakura returned to Akanabe's house with her shivering body. She immediately asks for her jacket back, although she felt awkward and ashamed for having run off in a huff, but had ultimately come back for her jacket. In a caring manner, Sakita handed her the jacket and offered to make a cup of tea for her. However, Sakura misinterpreted his kindness, thinking he had feelings for her despite her earlier actions. She firmly stated that she couldn't accept his feelings because she would never betray her best friend, even though Sakita hadn't said anything to suggest that. This startled Sakita, as he realized Sakura had completely misunderstood the situation. Meanwhile, Akanabe found the confusion between them as amusing. She understood Sakita's nature as a kind-hearted and caring person, but recognized that Sakura had misread his intentions. Sakura noticed Akanabe laughing and concluded that Akanabe wouldn't mind if Sakita had an interest in other girls or even for polygamy relationship. Sakita felt uncomfortable and wanted to clarify the situation, thus he confessed that he liked Sakura, but not in a romantic way. Akanabe then explained clearly to avoid the misunderstanding goes too far. She said that Sakita admired Sakura as a fan. Instead of feeling flattered by having a fan, Sakura felt uneasy because she didn't want to feel guilty about having her best friend's boyfriend as a fan. She even asked Akanabe if she was okay with it. To her surprise, Akanabe coldly replied that no matter how much Sakita admired anyone, his true feelings would always be for her. She adds that although Sakita is about to be stolen away, she will definitely take him back. Both Sakura and Sakita were taken aback by this revelation. Afterward, Sakura asked for permission to talk more with Sakita. Eventually, Akanabe allows her to talk with Sakita, and he eagerly started discussing her manga, expressing how much he loved it. Sakura then shared her thoughts on how she had inspired a character in Akanabe's manga. Akane often used real people as references, which impressed Sakura, especially since the new character designed by Akane was based on her own boyfriend. Caught up in their conversation, Sakura became excited and accidentally touched Sakita's arm. However, shortly after, Akane caught her hand and warned her not to touch Sakita too much. She reminded Sakura that she was the only one allowed to be physically affectionate with him. Realizing her mistake, Sakura apologized to Akane, assuring her that she had no intention of overstepping. At the end of the day, after Akane and Sakita finished their work, Akane noticed something while reviewing her drawings. She had a gut feeling that her boyfriend was worrying about something, even though he was trying to hide it while drawing a tree. She directly asked him about it, but Sakita insisted it wasn't a big deal and felt it was unnecessary to bring it up. He didn't want to burden her and preferred to deal with his concerns alone. Akane frowned and pouted, convinced that Sakita was hiding something from her. She was also a bit upset that he continued to call her Sensei, although their work was over. She mentioned that it was fine to refer to her as Sensei during work, but they were now in their private time and she found it unnecessary. Talking to her boyfriend was her priority in that moment. After some time and deep consideration, Sakita finally decided to express his worries. Sakita tells that he has difficulty in drawing protagonist character for the manga that he wants to post. He supposes that the protagonist he draws isn't look charming at all. He found the design too intricate to draw and wasn't sure if he could improve upon it. After listening to his concerns, Akane offered suggestions, such as using real people as references. However, she was unsure if that method would help him. She then thought that giving gaps might be a better approach. She explained that creating gaps for each character could make them more interesting, revealing aspects of their personality that contrast sharply with their usual traits. For example, a delinquent character often portrayed as bad may actually have a big heart that cares for animals. Similarly, a plain girl wearing glasses could appear stunning once she takes their glasses off. Akane believed this method could be effective if applied correctly. Additionally, she revealed another side of herself when she was home and away from work. When Sakita wasn't around, she often felt nervous and blushed over the sweet gestures he showed her. Just thinking about him could make her flustered. However, she quickly returned to her usual demeanor, which was cold and composed. She thought that showing such expressions made her appear silly and immature. Besides, she felt that adopting a cute persona might cause her boyfriend to lose interest. Therefore, she preferred to act mature since she was older and wanted to be the ideal sensei he admired. Being flustered and embarrassed was not something she wanted to display, so she chose to keep those feelings to herself. She further explained that giving gaps to characters could make them appear more attractive while highlighting their cute sides. After some contemplation, Sakita agreed that incorporating gaps in his character design might be helpful and decided to try this method to tackle his difficulties with the protagonist. Meanwhile, while paying attention to Akane's explanations, Sakita felt a bit flustered as he caught a glimpse of this admirable side of her when she became shy. He confessed his feelings, unable to hide his admiration for her beauty. Meanwhile, Akane confessed back as Sakita can easily embarrassed, but he finally can manage to speak earnestly when he wants to convey something. This is what made her fall to him even more. Finally, the day women eagerly await is approaching. It's Valentine's Day. As the occasion draws near, Akane-san has decided to assemble and make sweet chocolates intended for Sakita. To help her with this endeavor, she invites Sakura, who is skilled in cooking, to teach her. She also invites Kakami, her personal editor, to act as a tester for the chocolates. The cooking takes place outside her house, where Akane has found a safe space to prepare the treats. This is the first time Sakura has the opportunity to meet Akane's editor, and she is a bit surprised that Akane chose her own editor as the taster. Akane feels uncertain about this decision, recalling how terrible she used to be at cooking and how she ruined everything back in college. Despite her past shortcomings, Akane still wants her editor to be the tester for this cooking experiment. She has thought this through carefully, wanting someone who won't make her feel guilty about her food preparations. After a while, Kakami strolls over. She stops in front of Akane and Sakura, but keeping some distance. She calls out to Akane, asking whether there will be any games involved. Since Akane isn't into that sort of thing, Kakami realizes this and grabs a microphone to start singing randomly. Sakura understands now why Akane chose her as a taster. It's pretty clear because Kakami has a quirky personality. Choosing Sakura as a cooking teacher proves to be a great decision since she has experience making handmade chocolates. Both of them don their aprons and get ready to start cooking. Before they begin, Akane tells Sakura that she wants to create chocolates that will make Sakita fall for her even more, compelling him to hug her tightly and never let go, all from just one bite. Akane says this with a cute expression, but deep down, she knows such an outcome is unlikely. Even with Kakami as the tester, this is their first attempt, and it might turn out to be a disaster. Nonetheless, they are aware of the risks involved. Eventually, they decide to make chocolate truffles. First, they cut a chocolate bar into pieces and place it in a bowl. Then, they pour in some heated fresh cream and whisk the mixture until it reaches a creamy consistency. Everything goes perfectly until they are almost finished. For the final step, they put the mixture in the fridge for about 30 minutes, allowing it to set so they can shape it later, following Sakura's plan. While they wait, they decide to take a break. At that moment, Akane pulls out a cigarette and starts smoking. Sakura, surprised, thought that Akane had quit smoking. Akane clarifies that she stopped smoking at home to avoid secondhand smoke, as she cares about Sakita's health and believes smoking could shorten his lifespan. Sakura understands her best friend's feelings and refrains from offering any criticism. Since they need to wait for the dough, Sakura tries to take a short nap. However, the plan backfires and they end up waiting for an hour. By that time, the truffles are no longer shaped as they should be. Sakura feels disappointed, believing she has ruined everything. Akane explains that she hesitated to wake Sakura, fearing it would upset her, so she decided to handle it herself. However, she shares the disappointment as the truffles have also failed. Kakami, the tester, is overwhelmed as she prepares to taste the failed truffles, and her expression betrays her feelings. Despite this, she claims the taste isn't bad at all. After several attempts, Akane finally succeeds in making the truffles and decorates them properly so she can give them to her boyfriend later. Time flies and Valentine's Day arrives. It's a surprise for Sakita when he receives handmade chocolates from his beloved girlfriend. Akane proudly mentions that Sakura helped her prepare these chocolates, which are particularly special because they are filled with Akane's love. Sakita's face turns red, overwhelmed by the gesture. Without hesitation, Akane urges him to eat the chocolates right away before they melt. Meanwhile, in another place, Kakami receives a box of friend chocolates from her best friend, but she feels a sense of trauma, having been a taster for Akane's chocolates in the past. It's raining outside, and the sky is darker than usual. Since it's still working hours, Akane and Sakita are in the same room while focusing on their manga project. At the same time, Sakita shares a horror story inspired by true events about a mangaka who creates horror manga. He tells the tale of a mangaka who draws stories about the slit-mouthed woman, dedicating himself to this work every single day. However, before he reveals the conclusion to the story, he wonders if this is why people say that creating art means to giving birth to real things. Akane, who is listening to the story, pouts and adopts a grumpy expression that's showing her discomfort with the tale. Despite this, she tries hard to listen to her boyfriend. When Sakita finally realizes her feelings, he immediately apologizes profusely. But Akane reassures him that she only feels uncomfortable with some of his words since she's not really mad at all. This revelation makes Sakita feel guilty for what he has shared. He doesn't quite understand why his girlfriend doesn't like this type of story. Trying to lighten the mood, Akane feigns indifference, telling him he could tell her 100 ghost stories. She claims her short-term memory ensures she'd forget what he said instantly, which only amplifies Sakita's guilt. He feels he has failed in his roles as her assistant and boyfriend. Akane then awkwardly recalls the previous story Sakita told her about zombies. Sakita isn't sure if she truly forgot the previous tale. He informs her that zombies don't really exist, but even if they did, he would prefer to find a way to defeat them. However, he recalls the zombies from Crimson Witch, which makes him feel down as those zombies are incredibly strong, towering at 3 meters and capable of shooting shells with their hands. In the midst of their conversation, a loud thunderclap suddenly sounds, and the lights go out. Akane immediately speaks with trembling tone as she is mumbling if it's over and they will be killed by zombies. Sakita quickly grabs his phone, turning on the flashlight. He finds Akane sitting on the floor, seem frightened. He gulps as it's the first time he's seen this vulnerable side of her. He rushes to her, hugging her tightly to provide warmth and comfort, assuring her that she is safe with him as he protected her. This is the first time Sakita has hugged her, and it fills him with guilt even as he realizes he would only do this at the right moment. After a few moments, the electricity returns back, prompting them to unconsciously release the hug. Akane, who is realizing this moment, briefly asks for another hug, saying she doesn't feel satisfied. However, Sakita becomes embarrassed and feels flustered by her confession. Once he turns his head to the computer, Sakita is shocked as he remembered they hadn't backed up their data before the power cut off. On a beautiful morning, Sakita had just woken up and was preparing breakfast when he received a call from Akanabi Sensei. Out of nowhere, she asked about his mother's favorite food. Without hesitation, he replied that his mother's favorite was miso soup. Curious about why she brought up the topic, he asked her reason for the question. To his surprise, she informed him that his mother was visiting her house. He could hear his mother murmuring softly in the background. Realizing this, he quickly ended the call, changed his clothes, and hurried to Akanebi's house. Upon arriving at Akanebi's house, he entered the room feeling exhausted. From a distance, he saw his mother and girlfriend engaged in an animated conversation. As he got closer, he overheard Akanebi Sensei praising him and discussing his talents. She frequently spoke highly of him in front of his mother, who seemed a bit incredulous but equally excited. Once his mother noticed his presence, she turned around but still brimming with enthusiasm immediately greeted him warmly. Without missing a beat, Sakita asked her how she had found out about Akanebi's house and what her plans were for coming there. A big smile spread across her wrinkled face as she confessed that she had sent a fan letter mentioning that she was Sakita's mother. Shortly afterward, she received a response with her address included. Sakita felt embarrassed as he could relate to the situation. His mother mentioned that Akanabi Sensei welcomed her to visit any time. In the meantime, Akanabi Sensei expressed her desire to talk to the mother of such a remarkable person like Sakita. Overwhelmed with gratitude for the praise, Sakita's mother felt shy. But inversely she said that she's unsure about her parenting. Instead, she thanked Akanabi Sensei for bringing out such liveliness in her son. Hearing that conversation made Sakita feel guilty, and he wanted to clarify his own feelings because he didn't share the same view as his mother. Nevertheless, he was interrupted by her as she insisted he shouldn't disrupt their conversation and should be prepared for some embarrassment. After a moment of suspense, Akanabi Sensei asked Sakita's mother why she felt grateful to her. With a sigh, Sakita's mother launched into a long story. She explained that her husband had passed away long ago, and she had raised her son alone, despite the difficulty of balancing time. To her surprise, Sakita had always understood their circumstances and had been very supportive. When Sakita tried to interject and deny his mother's assumptions, she continued to express how lucky she felt to have raised such a wonderful child. She reminisced about a parent-teacher meeting when Sakita had expressed a desire to enter the workforce. His mother had been shocked, believing he loved drawing since childhood. She had suggested he study art and design at university, but he explained that drawing was just a hobby. What mattered most to him was her happiness, and he wanted her to enjoy life rather than work tirelessly to pay for his education. After working for a while, he had confronted her with a serious demeanor, stating he wanted to be a mangaka. He told her how a new manga serialization had captivated him and inspired him to improve his drawing skills and create his own manga. When he discovered that the author he admired was looking for an assistant, he decided to move to Tokyo to pursue that opportunity, aware that he would earn less and live alone at first. Before he could finish, his mother hugged him tightly, expressing gratitude for having him in her life. She reassured him that he could choose his own path, and she wouldn't interfere. Recognizing that her son had grown well under Akanabi Sensei's guidance, she viewed the sensei as a savior and showered her with thanks. However, Akanabi insisted that she was the one who needed to be grateful. After hearing the conversation between his mother and Akanabi Sensei, Sakita asked for permission to go to the washroom. He was deeply moved by their words, and he struggled to hold back tears. After a moment, he goes back into the room to find his mother talking nonsense and quite improper about his childhood. He is immediately shocked because it is quite unpredictable for her to come up with such a topic and to change it so easily from a sweet atmosphere to a weird one. His mother feels sorry for her jokes. Sakita immediately suspects that she might tell that kind of joke to other people. He feels sorry that Akanabi has to hear such an embarrassing topic. However, Akanabi does not feel the same way, as she enjoys listening to her boyfriend's childhood stories. Sakita expressed that he just wants her to hear a normal story about him. When Akanabi calls Sakita her boyfriend in front of his mother, she is unconsciously shocked and the atmosphere becomes more awkward. Time passed as Sakita's mother prepared to return home. He escorted her to the train station and promised that he would visit her during Obon later. His mother understood her son well and reminded him to take care of Akanabi-san. Noticing that Sakita was just like his father, she advised him not to make a woman wait too long, hinting at the importance of understanding her feelings. This made Sakita realize that he had indeed kept his girlfriend waiting for far too long. Determined to change this, he promised himself that he would kiss her on their next date. It had been a while since he had gone on an outdoor date, and even though it was still morning, they had planned to spend the day together. While strolling around, Sakita was haunted by his mother's words, which frustrated him as he felt like he had failed as a boyfriend. He recognized that there had been no real progress in their relationship despite dating for some time. His embarrassment seemed to be the main reason for his current predicament. Suddenly, Akanabi took his hand and expressed how happy she was to be holding hands with the person she loved most. Her wide smile radiated positive energy, making it hard for Sakita to hold back his feelings. She looked even cuter and more adorable in his eyes. As they walked, Sakita was lost in thought about how to initiate the kiss, worrying that he might appear awkward or overly embarrassed. However, he knew that nothing would change if he remained stuck in his thoughts, and he was determined to kiss her that day. For their first date, they visited the aquarium. While strolling around, Sakita suddenly speaks if it had been a while since his last visit. He speaks with enthusiasm. Then they enjoy the time to wander around and relishing the moment together. Akanabi revealed that she loved visiting the aquarium even if she didn't understand the different types of fish, as it simply made her feel relaxed. She also admitted that coming to the aquarium with her boyfriend was a precious moment for her as long as Sakita stayed by her side. This made Sakita feel even deeper affection for her, and he thought it might be the perfect moment to kiss her. On the other hand, Akanabi felt the same way and was waiting for him to make the first move. However, Sakita was too embarrassed to do so at that moment and chose not to act. They continued walking and came across two whales kissing. Sakita considered using this opportunity to make his move, but decided against it. In mind, Sakita feels totally like a failure as they have done spend time inside the aquarium, but they have not make any progress. Instead, he suggested to find a place to sit down, feeling guilty about the lack of progress. They eventually reached a Ferris wheel, and he hoped to gather the courage to kiss Akanabi-san there. Inside the gondola, they sat facing each other, and Akanabi remarked that the Ferris wheel was the perfect place for a kiss. Sakita was taken aback, surprised that she had noticed his intention to kiss her all along. Realizing how shocked he was, she thought he might want to keep it a secret and felt sorry for drawing attention to it, although she couldn't deny having sensed his intentions since the moment they met. At that moment, Sakita apologized for making her wait, even though she assured him that it was not a big deal and she would still be patient to wait. She confessed that just his effort to kiss her made her feel like she was flying over the moon all day. Her sincere confession made Sakita's heart swell, and he felt an overwhelming urge to move closer to her. They gazed into each other's eyes with soft and sincere expressions. Eventually, he leaned in and kissed her, sealing their feelings in a delicate embrace. The next morning, Sakita woke up to the sound of his alarm, which indicated it was already 7 a.m. Unfortunately, it was a bad morning for him as he had caught a cold. After informing Akanabi Sensei that he couldn't come to work due to his illness, she felt immediate concern for him. She displayed her caring nature by asking whether he had taken his medicine and if he was eating and drinking properly. However, Sakita was even more worried about Akanabi, knowing that she would have to manage the workload and scripts alone. Despite this, she reassured him that she would finish everything quickly so she could visit him and take care of him. In the afternoon, after completing all her projects, Akanabi ran out to buy everything Sakita needed and made her way to his apartment. She arrived at Sakita's place at 1 p.m. and finally be able to see him in person again. Feeling guilty for causing her so much trouble by being unable to work, Sakita apologized. Akanabi interrupted him, insisting that she intended to take care of him and make him feel happy. She then prepared various foods for him. Meanwhile, Sakita was unable to think clearly as he was excited to see his girlfriend, but also felt dizzy and embarrassed. Standing before her, he mentioned that he wanted to take a bath and tidy up first, but Akanabi stopped him. She told him to stay in bed and rest since he was still sick. After a while, Akanabi brought him a bowl of rice porridge that she had just made. He gobbled it down and felt significantly better. Surprisingly, Akanabi had managed to make the porridge well despite her previous cooking mishaps, and she felt relieved that it turned out great. After finishing the meal, Sakita laid back and tried to sleep but suddenly felt something strange. When he opened his eyes, he found Akanabi leaning in closer while resting her forehead against his. Feeling hot from the closeness, she quickly sat back up. Sakita felt embarrassed and told her not to stay that close again or he might die of embarrassment. Although they had kissed before, he still felt shy and highlighted his true personality as a naturally reserved person. Sakita confessed that being with her made him feel like he was in a dream. In response, Akanega asked him what he would request if this moment were actually a dream. After a brief moment of thought, he replied that he wanted a lap pillow. Akanagi was happy to grant this simple request. She gently positioned herself so that Sakita's head rested on her lap and began to rub his hair softly to comfort him in his weakened state. Sakita felt a mix of pleasure, warmth, and softness, but as he became aware of the situation, his embarrassment returned and he felt even hotter, suspecting his illness might worsen due to it. Akanav then said that fulfilling his request was nothing for her and that she could offer it any time he wanted. Hearing this made Sakita's feelings for her grow even stronger, and he confessed how much he loved her and how grateful he felt to have her in his life before he finally drifted off to sleep. Akanegi's heart raced at this moment, encouraging her to steal a kiss from him. However, she stopped herself as she realizes that Sakita wouldn't be happy if she caught a cold from kissing him. Therefore, she decided to hold off on kissing him until he recovered. On a beautiful day, people continue to focus and work hard for their lives, including Hirado Chi. Hirado Chi is a 19-year-old part-timer at Mountain Cafe. While she wipes cups, she contemplates whether she should resign. Surprisingly, she doesn't have any crucial problems that would warrant quitting. Everything is good as she enjoys working there. The customers are nice, the aroma of the coffee beans is delightful, and the coffee made by the manager tastes amazing. However, there is one significant reason why she considers leaving her job. One of the regular customers is an elegantly beautiful lady who frequently visits Mountain Cafe, Akane Akira, the author of Crimson Witch. Akane carries an aura of grace and good manners that makes her seem almost goddess-like. As a huge fan of Crimson Witch, Hirado can't contain her excitement upon seeing her favorite author at the cafe. In meantime, even when Akanabi is about to pay the coffee and accidentally saw the manager, she would politely express how good his coffee is. Whenever Hirado's friends mention that Akanabi gives off elegant aura, Hirado eagerly joins the conversation and often exaggerating her admiration about Akanabe. Every time Akanabe visits, Hirado pays quiet attention, feeling thrilled just to be in her presence. Hirado never misses the chance to attend Akanabe's autograph sessions. Despite her admiration, she often thinks she doesn't deserve to be a fan, feeling that anyone vastly superior would be a better match for Akanabe. This mindset continues until a day she dreads arrives. Akanabe visits Mountain Cafe again. However, instead of visiting alone, she tends to visit the cafe with her boyfriend. Upon seeing them together, Hirado feels a jolt of shock, as though her heart has been struck by lightning. Still, she knows her place and remains calm while watching from a distance. The manager wonders aloud since it's a bit rare as Akanabe has brought someone with her, and this is the first time she has done that. Hirado's attention is drawn to Sakita, Akanabe's boyfriend, who seems completely unfazed by being in the presence of such a literary icon. How come he can stand sane there even in front of Akanabe's aura? Hirado is questioning whether the Maz is her boyfriend or just her editor. She finds him intriguing, and it adds to her desire to resign from her job. As the manager prepares the best coffee for Akanabe and her boyfriend, Hirado carefully brings the drinks to their table. After serving them promptly and professionally, she returns to the staff desk as she kept paying attention over them. Akanabe enthusiastically shares her thoughts about the cafe from its ambience, the atmosphere, and the rich flavor of the coffee. With same excitement, Sakita responds to her as he sips the coffee and can feel that it has rich taste. Watching Akanabe smiles with such excitement, Hirado feels a pang of jealousy, but also a deep sense of happiness for Akanabe, as Akanabe shows how happy she is since she took her boyfriend in this cafe with cute expression. This sends Hirado a thunder that shocked her since Akanabe looks more adorable while smiling. By then, she is sure that the man is completely her boyfriend since she can act naturally and sincerely like that. Just as Hirado walks past them, Akanabe speaks in a low tone, mentioning that she also enjoys coming to Mountain Cafe because of the waitress is a fan who had attended her first autograph session. She confessed that every time she saw her enjoy herself working in the Mountain Cafe, it always made her work more efficiently. Hirado overhears this and feels instantly embarrassed yet thrilled to hear her favorite author praise her too much. This moment leads her to reconsider her plans to resign. In a change of heart, she tells her manager that she wants to work at Mountain Cafe for the foreseeable future, as she fueled by the excitement of that day. After a long, exhausting day, Sakita and Akanabe finished their work when suddenly Sakura arrived, bringing a variety of drinks. She invited both of them to join her in drinking to relieve the fatigue they had all felt during the day. Sakita was somewhat taken aback, as it was surprising that Sakura had easy access to Akanebi's house, thanks to the spare key she kept. Despite this, Sakita didn't feel jealous at all. However, Akanabi seemed to misunderstand his feelings and offered him a spare key as well. Sakita politely refused the offer, his cheeks slightly flushed with embarrassment. Noticing the flirtation between them, Sakura felt annoyed and began to whine. After some playful arguments, they finally settled down to drink. Fortunately, Sakura had brought alcohol-free options, which allowing Sakita to join the fun. Sakura looked fresh and lively as she sipped her drink. It had been a while since she had enjoyed a drink with Akana. Meanwhile, Sakita got up to ask for permission to leave so he could prepare something light for all of them to eat. At that moment, Sakura teased Akanabe, suggesting that Sakita loved spending time in his girlfriend's kitchen. Akanabe quickly warned Sakura that she was the only one who could see Sakita in a lewd way. After some time of drinking, the three of them started to feel the effects. Sakura rested her head on the table and softly mumbled about the stress of her family pressuring her to get married soon or find a boyfriend because she felt she was getting older. She understood her family's good intentions, but found their constant reminders to be overwhelming, which had driven her to escape to Akanebi's place. Sakita, who was listening, recognized that she simply wanted a break from that pressure. Akanabe, feeling tipsy like Sakura, chimed in with her thoughts and praised Sakura. She confessed that she loved it when Sakura visited and taught her how to cook, expressing her gratitude for Sakura's presence in her life. These heartfelt comments really uplifted Sakura's spirits. Sakura remarked that these moments of connection seemed to happen whenever Akana was drunk. She even mentioned that Sakita could rely on her whenever he faced difficult times. However, Sakura was the first to fall asleep and didn't realize that Akanabe had already become quite tipsy. At that moment, Akanabe lay unconscious with her head resting on Sakita's chest, holding his hand while mumbling about how much she loved holding it. She hugged him tightly, inhaling his scent until she dozed off. Sakita's heart raced, and he could feel her warmth against him. This was a precious moment for her. Eventually, Sakita realized it was time to go home and asked Akanabe for permission. However, she refused to let him leave and asked for another hug. He felt he needed to go home soon to prepare for the next day. Caught in a dilemma, looking for an excuse to leave since he felt quite dizzy, he suddenly had an idea to coax her. He said if he slept there, Sakura might accidentally end up sleeping next to him. Reluctantly, she allowed him to leave. On a weekday, it's uncertain when Akanabe's younger sister will arrive. She is Akanabe Saya, a first-year university student. Saya is energetic and cheerful, especially when she gets to play with her older sister. However, Akana often tires quickly, and had to interrupt her boyfriend to play with Saya just to take a break. Briefly, Sakita arrives at Akanabe's place and finds her dressed in cute clothes, sweating profusely. She apologizes for having asked him to come on his day off, explaining that she needs his help to take care of her sister. Akanabe is already drained and hopes Sakita can lend a hand. Saya approaches him with a joyful expression and introduces herself. Akanabe chimes in, saying that her sister is very enthusiastic about sports. Saya has even participated in a national swimming competition. Once she gets into a sporting mood, she won't stop until she's satisfied. Besides, as she is still too young, she doesn't remember to take breaks. Understanding how exhausted his girlfriend is, Sakita accepts the challenge to play with Saya without hesitation. However, after only a short moment, he collapses and completely worn out. He forgets that he isn't used to exercising that much. Meanwhile, Saya is still full of energy. She teasingly remarks that Sakita is less capable than her sister and bluntly states that he won't be able to keep up with Akanabe. She explains that people who are important to her need to live healthily until they're at least 120 years old. Since Sakita is important to her sister, he also matters to her. She recounts having read that mangaka who lack enough exercise or sleep often have shorter lifespans, and she doesn't want that to happen to those she cares about. Hearing this, Akanabe finally understands why her sister wanted to play. Saya wants her to be more active so that she can live a longer, healthier life and not getting ill easily. Saya admits that she believes playing together and having fun while exercising will help prevent sickness. Akanabe embraces her sister tightly, thanking her for caring. They promise to exercise more in the future so that Saya won't have to worry about them. Excitedly, Saya invites them to play again. However, both Sakita and Akanabe's bodies can't handle it. The next day, they find themselves unable to move more than a meter due to muscle pain. It's quite pathetic that they're so sore after just one day of playful exercise. Today is the release date for the new volume of Akanegi's manga, Crimson Witch. She is overjoyed, especially after receiving so much positive feedback from her readers. Seeing her boyfriend, Sakita, so happy makes her feel even more joyful. Sakita can't contain his excitement. He bought 20 copies of the manga. Akanabi tells him she could have just sent him a copy, but he insists on buying it himself to respect his favorite author. Before work starts, he takes the opportunity to read the manga he just purchased. As he focuses on a page, he suddenly recognizes one of his own illustrations in the background. He had tagged it to remind himself that he could improve. Out of nowhere, Akane confesses how much she loves him, catching him completely off guard and making him feel embarrassed. She explains that this humility is one of the things she loves about him. Recalling the first time she recruited him, Akane admits she was unsure about needing someone to help with her manga. However, she knew it was necessary as Sakita always strives for high quality. When she reviewed his artwork, she didn't expect much, but once she saw his background art, she was genuinely impressed. She thought the background was incredible and perfectly suited for her manga, as she couldn't believe how talented he was. Over time, Sakita dedicated himself to enhancing and developing his drawing skills and always remaining humble despite his mentor's praise. It was then that Akane realized she could truly count on him. As Sakita listens to her confession, he remains grounded. His honesty, kindness, and passion for manga only make Akane fall for him even more. She tells him that if she could go out with him, she'd be the happiest person in the world. Eventually, he does make her feel incredibly delighted. As she showers him with sincere compliments, Sakita feels overwhelmed with embarrassment. In her spare time, Akane usually goes on a date with her little sister, Akane Saya. It has been a while since they last had a date, so Saya looks happier today. Walking down the street, Saya has the idea of inviting her sister to the cafe they went to last time, just to have some pudding. Halfway there, however, she spots Sakita with another girl. At first, she thinks the girl might be Sakita's family. But when she asks Akane and knows that Sakita is an only child, she starts to think that Sakita might be cheating on her sister. This comes as a surprise to her, as she has been trying hard to persuade her sister to only pay attention to her and not be able to see her boyfriend from a distance. She really wants to protect her sister. When she saw Sakita with the girl, she entered the cafe she was going to. This startled her, and she immediately asked her sister to turn around and change the plan. But Akane can't even listen to her. Instead, she decides to go to the cafe with Saya. When they enter the cafe, Akane can see it from Saya's face. Obviously, Saya is hiding something from her, and she just looks worried. Akane suddenly asks if Saya is worried about her or not, because she doesn't want Saya to worry her as much as she did the last time. Hearing this, Saya feels guilty and stands up firmly as he immediately comes to Sakita's side. When Saya suddenly appears in front of Sakita, Saya immediately asks who the girl is that he went out with. Meanwhile, the girl was startled and asked back to Sakita in a low tone, wondering who the girl in front of them was. Saya felt upset at the time as she spoke up about why he was cheating on her sister. There is so much pressure and misunderstanding between them. Sakita is shocked when Saya suspects him of cheating on her sister. He tries to explain that the girl is Hirado from Akane's favorite cafe. Akane, who understands the trouble, suddenly appears. Her appearance caused Hirado to be startled when her favorite author suddenly appeared in front of her. Akane tries to clear things up. She said she was the one who asked Sakita to go out with Hirado-san. Since last night, when the pin button of Crimson Witch came out a few days ago, Sakita has been having trouble collecting it. At the same time, she noticed that Hirado also has that pin. So Akane started to arrange this meeting for both Sakita and Hirado. Although Sakita already tried to refuse, but Akane persuaded him to accept. Then he doesn't have another option. After listening to the explanation, Saya immediately apologizes to her sister because she thought that Sakita was cheating on her and she is sorry for making this trouble. Akane immediately said sincerely that she was never worried about cheating, because she is the only girl Sakita loves the most and so on. Sakita is the only one she loves the most, so no one will have a chance to come between them. So finally everything is cleared up and there are no more misunderstandings.